Evening, everyone. So here I come up with the CET 2021 Day 2 Slot 2 analysis. So Day 2 Slot 2 was not very much different from the previous 3 slots that happened yesterday 2 and today morning slot. Not a very huge difference. First important thing, interface remains the same. So I'm assuming once again the interface will remain the same for the test tomorrow also. Okay. The bifurcation of questions across quant, logical reasoning, verbal ability, and abstract reasoning is almost the same as it has been in the various other sections. Okay, so these are the things that actually do not change. Okay, however, if you check, the interface has changed compared to the last few years CET. So please make sure that when you go through the test, just get used to the interface, because normally your question template is on the right hand side. This time your question template is on the left hand side. Okay, that's the little difference. Okay, now let us look at the test structure. Okay, so this was the rough bifurcation of the test in slot 2. Quantitative aptitude, math, 50 questions, out of which 48 were maths and there were only 2 DI questions. Logical reasoning came up to a whooping 94, a huge change compared to the previous years. Okay, verbal ability and reading comprehension as usual has been the same, and abstract reasoning has gone to 6. So basically, normally if you observe the previous years, see, I used to have 75 logical reasoning questions, which also included the verbal reasoning, and I used to have 25 abstract reasoning questions. So that came up to 100. Okay, so this year also, these 2 sections come up to 94 plus 6, 100 itself, but there are very less abstract reasoning questions in this section. Okay, also, if you observe, abstract reasoning in the morning slot was around 8 to 10 questions. This slot was only 6 questions. So there is not much change there. Level of difficulty wise, abstract reasoning very simple, very straightforward. Okay, as far as abstract reasoning is concerned, out of the 6 questions, there were 3 questions which was series completion, and the remaining 3 questions was group formation. This was the 6 questions, and this type of questions were very, very easy. Okay, so I think you could have easily attempted either 5 or 6 questions in this section. If I go to verbal ability and reading comprehension, the bifurcation, I will give it to you in the further slides. Okay, it was a total of 50 questions. Okay, and the level was easy to moderate. Why it has become a little moderate or a little difficult is just because of few words which were difficult. Okay, rest all I felt was manageable and easy. Okay, if I look at logical reasoning, there were 94 questions. Once again, level of difficulty wise, I think out of this 94, there were approximately 15 questions which was on a little difficult side, and the remaining questions were relatively easier. And as usual, 50 questions, but very less DI, or I would say almost no DI, because there were only 2 questions on DI, and that was also pie diagram, and that was a relatively simpler question also. Okay, one of the first question of the pie diagram could have been done early. The second question of pie diagram needed a little bit of calculation. Okay, math bifurcation, I will come back to it a little later. But out of this 50 questions, a decent attempt would have been anywhere in the range of 35 to 40 questions. Okay, so as we all know, this year the CET has no sections altogether. The questions are jumbled up. This slot was no different from that perspective. Also, there is no negative markings in the test. Okay, so if I just go back to the test day, when you enter your CET lab for taking the test, you will have to wait for approximately 45 minutes to 1 hour. You get 10 minutes to read the instructions before the test starts. So keep this in mind, that you will be spending approximately 45 minutes to 50 minutes and you will not be doing anything there. Okay, so you need to be a little cool during that period. Okay, I know it is a little longer time, but we cannot do anything with that. Also, no difference. The test structure has been the same in the various slots also. So now let's move on to first section, which is quant. As you see, there are a total of 50 questions. And as I said, there were only 2 DI questions. There was one data sufficiency question, which was quant based, and that had 3 sentences, but something that I feel you could have avoided because it was a little time consuming. Okay, it may not be difficult, but it was time consuming. Okay, arithmetic made up a huge chunk, a major chunk with 18 questions. Okay, and if I look at arithmetic, you had 6 to 7 questions approximately on time speed distance, a couple of questions on work pipe systems, 1 question on rate and work, time and work, you can say. Okay, other questions, there were 1 question on profit and loss, 2 questions on SICI, 1 question on statistics, which was basically asking you to find mean, 1 question on statistics, 1 or 2 questions on averages. This is what basically arithmetic consisted. The next major topic was modern maths with 9 questions. The distribution of modern math being 3 to 4 questions on probability, something which was missing even yesterday. Probability questions were missing yesterday. Today we had, in this particular slot, we had 4 questions on probability, out of which 1 question was on conditional probability. The other 3 questions were relatively straightforward. Couple of questions on permutation combination, again very straightforward, very easy, not too much of calculation also. Okay. The next major area, as you can see, is geometry. Geometry had 6 questions, out of which 2 or 3 questions were cube and cuboid based, 1 question on circle, okay, and a couple of questions on mensuration. But all were either formula based or simple calculation based, nothing very difficult here. Okay, the other is higher maths, which has sprung a surprise this year. Okay, and I'm sure many of you have been worried with questions coming up on derivatives and so on. Yes, this slot 2 had 1 question on derivative, 1 question on matrix, a 3x3 matrix, 1 question which was on linear programming based, and 1 question on systematic graphs and so on. But again, guys, realize, as you would have seen in the previous slide, a good attempt in this test was somewhere close to 150, 155 questions. Okay, so what I would simply suggest is, once you realize that this is a higher maths question, some area that you're not very comfortable with, simply leave it and you can go ahead. No need to worry, because the other questions, level of difficulty wise, are not very high. So you need not spend too much time on such questions. Simply mark it and go ahead. Okay. Other areas that you can see on the screen: algebra, 2, 3 questions, a couple of questions on quadratic equation, 1 on linear equation, and so on. Numbers was also 2 questions, very, very straightforward. Okay, so this was the basic bifurcation of our quant section. So out of these 50 questions, as I said earlier, 30-35 would have been a good attempt. Okay, so the level of difficulty, it was easy to moderate, but definitely not very difficult, because the number of higher maths questions were hardly 6, which I think you could have given. Let's go on to the next section, the logical reasoning section. Huge surprise, because it's gone to 83 plus 9, 94 questions. Another huge surprise is standard questions which used to come every year, like sequential input-output tracing. Decision was completely missing. Questions which you get are questions on family tree, which is close to 8 to 9 questions. Coding decoding in this basic slot was approximately 60 questions on coding decoding, which was huge. Linear arrangement was another major chunk. So another distinct factor of logical reasoning questions this year CET, as compared to the previous years, is if I have a set of 2 questions this year, I had 3 sets of 2 questions each. Both the questions were not together. One was question number 2, the other was question number 50. One set had 1 question as question number 28, the other question was somewhere in 170s. So by that time, you actually forget you had done this similar thing. Okay, so these such sets were there, and there was one set of matrix arrangement wherein all the 6 questions were together, and it was arrangement of 4 parameters of matrix arrangement, which was set too much of data. I feel we could have left that set. Okay. The other major chunk, as I said, was linear arrangement. Then you had another 6 or 7 single individual sets. Okay. Then another surprise, as I said, was coding decoding with almost 16 questions. Questions on directions with almost 10 questions on directions. Circular arrangement for 2 sets of 2 questions each, so 4 questions. But the important part here is you did not have difficult circular arrangement questions where some people are facing inside and some are facing outside. So basically, all my questions had people facing inside itself. Okay, that was another. Yes, there were 3 questions on clocks. There were 3 questions on calendar also in this slot. There was 1 question which was tournament-based questions. There was ranking questions also there. So there were approximately 5 to 6 questions which were based on ranking. Okay, so this constituted your 83 questions of logical reasoning. This section normally comes along with the verbal reasoning questions also. Okay, so there were only 9 verbal reasoning questions. Again, much lesser than what has come in the other slots. So even if you look at the morning slot, there were approximately 20 verbal reasoning questions. Here I could only find 9. The breakup being course of action as 6 and syllogisms being. This was the breakup of the verbal reasoning questions. So out of this 94 questions, I think a good attempt would be anywhere in the range of 65 to 70 questions. Would definitely be a good attempt. Let us go on to the third section, which is visual reasoning, or we normally call it as abstract reasoning. Only 6 questions compared to 25 which used to come in the previous years. But as I said earlier, very simple questions. Should have attempted 5 or all 6 also. Okay, there were 3 series completion questions, and folding the cube questions were 3. The pattern in which the series completion questions were asked were a little different, but I don't think that will make much a difference because the questions were actually very. Let's move on to the last section, which is verbal ability. If you look at verbal ability, you had 14 reading comprehension questions and 35 vocab or grammar based questions. Yes, so the test had more grammar based questions rather than the reading comprehension questions. Okay, out of the reading comprehension questions also, if you check, there was only one RC which had 4 questions in it. Rest all other were individual RC questions. So passage given, you need to find answer from the passage, only single question. The other bifurcations of verbal ability questions is, as you can see there, antonyms 5 questions, synonyms only 1 question, word meanings 7 questions, complete the theme or para completion 2 questions, anagram based odd word out 6 questions, which are all very easy. Find the meaningful word 1 question. Okay, fill in the blanks 5 questions, 2 odd man out, complete the theme or para completion 2 questions. So approximately 50 questions of verbal. And as I said, a good attempt would once again be anywhere in the range of 35 to 40 questions, excepting the word meaning questions. Okay, rest all others were almost on either easy side or little difficult side. Yes, the word meaning questions were a little difficult. So this was the analysis of day 2, slot 2. Okay, a good attempt would be anywhere in the range of 150 to 155 questions. You are targeting colleges like Jamnalal Bajaj. Okay, nothing huge different from day 1 or the day 2 slot 1 compared to the last year's test. I hope you have enjoyed this feedback. Thank you.